So the Charlotte Hornets had somewhat of a disappointing end to their season when they lost in a blowout game versus the Indiana Pacers in the NBA play-in game. But nonetheless, this season definitely has to be viewed as a very positive year for the Hornets because most of the year they were in the playoffs, and at the end of the year they dealt with many injuries and that's the main reason they fell down to the 9th spot. No one thought that the Hornets would be good this year, so the fact that they were shows that in future seasons they can make the playoffs. But now we have to look into the future of the Hornets and their offseason. So in today's video, I'll be giving some things that I think the Hornets should do this upcoming offseason. But before we get into the video, I ask you to drop a like on this video as it does help my channel grow. Subscribe to my channel if you want weekly NBA content and touch my goal of 1,500 subscribers. And comment on this video, start a conversation with me as I do respond to all of my comments, and play that intro. The first thing I think the Charlotte Hornets should do this offseason is that they need to sign a good starting center. Because for most of the year, they were either starting Cody Zeller or Bismack Biyombo. And if we're being honest, those guys might be the worst combination of centers in the league. And neither of them are even close to starting caliber centers. And I could legitimately argue that both of them aren't even backup caliber on a good team. So to me, it's clear Charlotte's biggest weakness is the center position. Because none of those guys are great finishers at the rim, and they're not crazy athletic, and they can't even shoot, so they just clog up the paint. So this offseason, Charlotte needs to get a new center, because you also have to remember they have guys like Lamello Ball, who's a player who likes to run the pick and roll, and he's an amazing passer. And he's the main reason Biyombo and Cody Zeller even looked decent this year, because he would hook them out with these great passes. But just imagine if Lamello was put with a center with actual skill and talent. That would take him and his whole team to the next level, because if Lamello actually had a good center, it would give them more options in the offense, because Charlotte isn't a great offensive team, so they could definitely use the boost. Some centers they should look into in next year's upcoming free agency, well this year's, a guy like Daniel Tice, who in my opinion is the definition of an average center. He can catch lobs, play defense at a good level, and space the floor at an above average level for a center. There's also Nerlens Noel, who isn't much of an offensive player, but he can catch lobs, but he's mainly popular because of his defense, as he's one of the best defenders in the whole league. And Charlotte was far from a great defensive team, so they could definitely use his defense. They could also look at Richaun Holmes, who's a pretty good defender, and he's an amazing lob target, and he also has some skill finishing at the rim. And I think he's the most realistic option for them, and he honestly might be the best option for him because he's a mixture of all the things. There's also a guy like Jarrett Allen, who's a free agent, but I think Cleveland is going to match any offer he gets since he is a restricted one, as long as it's lower than like 20 to 23 million. But I think Jarrett would actually be the best fit, but I don't think there's a real chance that he goes to Charlotte. There is a chance that the Hornets could get Mitchell Robinson from the Knicks, since it seems like the Knicks like Nerlens Noel way more than Mitchell Robinson, since he is a better player. And it's not crazy to think that New York would just let Mitchell Robinson go, since he's a slightly worse version of Nerlens Noel, but I do think they will match his offer. But literally any of those guys I just named are significantly better than Cody Zeller or Bismack Biyombo. And this year, Cody Zeller's a free agent, so I think they should just let him walk in this year's free agency, or maybe keep him as a backup center. But they definitely need to look into getting a starting caliber center, because I think it would honestly take their team to the next level. The second thing the Charlotte Hornets need to do this offseason is look into some good defenders, because Charlotte only ranked as the 18th best defense in the league, which is below average, and I believe if they could get into the 12 to 8 range in defense, it could drastically improve their team and help them make the postseason. Charlotte's a team with a lot of cap space, so they have the opportunity to get a lot of defenders, so there's not really any excuses. Some defenders they could look into is Danny Green from the Philadelphia 76ers, although I doubt he would go to Charlotte. They could get Kelly Oubre Jr., who's a really good defender, but I don't know how he would fit it well with them, because they have guys like Miles Bridges already and PJ Washington. They could maybe look into getting Josh Richardson, who's a really good perimeter defender, or Derek Jones, who could play a vital role for them. or maybe even Avery Bradley, who throughout his career is basically known for only his perimeter defense. To be honest, I don't know which one of those guys they should sign, but all I know is that they need to add more defenders to their roster, because it could take them from being an average team, which is what they are right now, to being an above average team that can compete in the playoffs. For some reason, Charlotte only ranked as the 22nd best offense in the league. If I'm being honest, I don't understand that. I think it might be because of injuries, because their team is filled with a bunch of guys who can score the ball at a good level. Because they obviously have Lamello Ball, who is averaging 20 points and giving out 8 assists as soon as he started starting, and he's a great shooter on top of that. Gordon Hayward is averaging 21 points the whole year on good efficiency. They have Terry Rozier, who was averaging close to 20 points on good efficiency. They had Devonte Graham, who was a very inconsistent player, but he's still a great shooter and a guy who can handle the ball at a great level. And Malik Monk is a 6th man who can score the ball very quickly. They even have Miles Bridges, who stepped up at the end of the year and showed that he could be a 10 to 15 points per game scorer. And PJ Washington is a good floor spacer and can handle the ball at a good level for the power forward spot. So if I'm being honest, I don't really understand why they were so bad on offense this season. Maybe with a fully healthy year with Lamello and just everyone in general, they could become a top 12 offense, because I think that's where they should rank with this personnel. And I think if they get that good on offense, they definitely could make the playoffs. The third thing the Charlotte Hornets should do, in my opinion, is not let Devonte Graham simply walk in free agency, because I believe they have his bird rights and he's a restricted free agent. So I don't think they should just let him go easily, because although Devonte is inconsistent, he still has some potential to be a starting guard in the league, and many teams are definitely going to want him, but I don't think Charlotte should actually keep him on the roster. I think they should use him as a sign and trade piece to get more role players, or maybe even a starting caliber center. Because letting him leave for simply nothing when you can complete a trade to get more assets doesn't make much more sense. But I don't think they should keep him due to the fact that they already have 2 good guards in Terry Rozier and Lamello, and Devonte's not really a bench type player in my opinion. Also, Devonte's playstyle is kind of redundant to Lamello, because he's like a worse version of him. He also would take minutes and shots away from Lamello. So I don't really see any reason for him to be on the team when they have so many more positions and areas that they need to fill. So they might as well just trade him. Letting Devonte leave for nothing would be kind of dumb if you could trade assets for him. But if Devonte leaves for absolutely nothing, it will be a total embarrassment and failure for Charlotte. The fourth thing the Charlotte Hornets need to do this offseason is something that's not talked about much, but it is that they need to nail their next draft pick, because this year they'll probably have somewhere around the 12th to the 15th pick in the draft. And in my opinion, I think this is somewhat important draft selection, because in future seasons, I don't think they will be in the lottery. I think they'll be a playoff team for the next few years, so they need to make a right selection this draft and get a solid player in the draft. I honestly don't know who it should be. I'm not like the best draft expert, but all I know is that they have to make the right selection, because besides that Lamello pick, a lot of their recent picks have been sus and not amazing. And I think if they could get the steal of the draft, or if they could just get a player who could contribute right out the gate, it could really help them. But anyways guys, that's it for the video. Let me know what you think Charlotte needs to do. Drop a like on this video to help my channel grow. Subscribe to my channel if you want weekly NBA content, and to reach my goal of 1,000 subscribers. And comment on this video to start a conversation with me, as I actually do respond to all of my comments. And I'm out.